Well, good morning. Great day, great weekend, I should say, for the Hilltoppers to have Iggy and Mike White both drafted and into really good situations. That was the thing I was really excited about for both those guys, is to go to really good fits for what their characteristics are. Starting with Iggy, for him to be a fourth-round draft pick, great story. When you look back a year ago and think about what was really going on from a personnel and roster standpoint, the incumbent inside linebacker starter was TJ McCollum. Iggy was an outside linebacker, really almost a defensive end in the old system. And Coach Clayton White's system and Maurice Crump's tutelage, you saw a guy go from a defensive end, essentially, outside linebacker, to an inside linebacker as a first-year starter because of the departure of TJ McCollum. And now Iggy plays himself into a role where he is now a fourth-round draft pick for the Chicago Bears. It's pretty incredible when you look at the development of Iggy in such a short period of time, solely as an inside linebacker. That's a tremendous story. I fielded a lot of calls about Iggy. The thing that I was able to talk about with Iggy is just he's a consummate professional in every sense of the word. The way he lives his life off the field, the way he lives his life, in the classroom, on the field, a true professional. And that's the thing I was so excited about with this particular year of two draft picks, and then Deion Yelder being a real high priority undrafted free agent, that all these guys personify what a professional is as a human being, in the way they make decisions in their lives off the field, the way that they attend class and graduate and have high aspirations academically. These guys are what we're looking for in our program going forward, and they also were rewarded with the highest honor, which is to be drafted in the NFL or sign an undrafted free agent contract. You look at Mike White, just to see him and his even some of the adversity he had to face with an incredible amount of departure from a personnel standpoint offensively, the offensive line departures to his by far his most productive receivers departing, to the running back in the backfield. It put a lot on Mike, but I can't tell you how proud I am of Mike for sticking it out, being committed to this university going forward, into his fifth year, his last year, and he was rewarded for that in the draft. He was probably not a draft grade player after his junior year, and he played himself into a third to fifth draft grade. The thing I'm most excited about Mike White is that he has a chance to continue to actually develop, which sounds weird as a pro quarterback, but Kellen Moore is a great friend of mine. We both played quarterback at Boise State. He played a whole lot better than I did. One of the best that's ever played the game at the college level. But we were neighbors in Boise when I was the offensive coordinator there, and he was playing with the Dallas Cowboys, and we'd spent some time in the offseason, and I've just been blown away by his intellect and what he can do for Mike White. He also spent about 2-3 days with Coach Adams and myself, really good friends with Coach Adams, and just got a feel for who Mike White is, where he's going, and they truly saw him as a third-round draft guy. I don't believe that they had the intention of drafting a quarterback until they found out that such a high-priority guy was available in the fifth round, and they jumped all over it. So I talked to Kellen afterwards, talked to Mike White, and he could not have ended up in a better situation. The offensive structure that we run here at Western, that Mike ran in 2017, has a lot of similarities to what the Dallas Cowboys run. And the beautiful thing about it all is Kellen can speak our language perfectly, our verbiage. And so Mike White and Kellen will be on the same page from day one in terms of defensive identification, how you call routes, and almost be a translator into the system that they're running at the Dallas Cowboys, which is a great deal for Mike. Look forward to seeing him battle and get that backup job. It's an opportunity that's there for Mike, and that's exactly what we were looking for in a great organization, and he got that. And proud of him. Deion Yelder signed what amounted to be the premier undrafted free agent contract, most guaranteed money that was released publicly of any undrafted free agent. Goes into a situation with another guy that I have some familiarity with that he can learn from. Kobe Fleener was a tight end at Sanford that I was around both when he was being recruited under Harbaugh regime and then when he finished out his career under Coach Shaw. And that'll be a great guy for Deion to link up with. And I think Deion's got a legitimate opportunity to compete to truly play as a rookie, both in special teams and as a tight end. I think there's a wide open opportunity to compete for him. So thrilled for him. And like I said, to reiterate, the kind of young men that those three men are is exactly what you want in this program, and it's a great lesson to our current roster that if you live your life like a professional, if you go about your business in the facility every day like a professional, you will end up playing like a professional, and ultimately you will be a professional in this game if you have that talent that aligns with those intangible qualities. Great illustration for our players, and also we're going to have some opportunities as it goes forward to find out more about mini camp tryouts, rookie mini camps, rookie tryouts. Those are great opportunities for players to make a name for themselves, and those are in a little bit of a different category than what happened with Iggy, Mike White, and Deion Yelder. But you never know. You got Tyler Ferguson a year ago ended up making a roster from a rookie tryout. So those are great opportunities for Cam Eccles-Looper, and some other guys that are working to lock those up. One more thing of note I wanted to touch on, Dennis Edwards will be completing his academic career at Western Kentucky this May. Dennis Edwards has informed us and has opted to forgo his final year at Western Kentucky as a football player, as a member of our roster. That's a part of this new legislation with transferring that's going through, not quite yet, but certainly the fact that he is graduated from this university has given him the opportunity to decide what is best for him individually, and he has decided to go in another direction. Where that is, I do not know. But insofar as everything's done above board, we certainly will support him wherever he chooses to attend. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
So it'll be a grad transfer?
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Did you all have any inkling that it's going to be a possibility?
We had heard some rumblings about that, and and wanted to address that certainly throughout spring ball, but we had heard some rumblings about some stuff that was going on.
His departure, where does that leave the offensive line?
I'll be to be extremely honest. I'm excited about the direction of the O-line in general, whether that be with the departure of a player or not. My biggest theme for the offensive line coming out of spring ball and just working together with TJ Woods, we want to play the 5 toughest, most bought in, most relentless effort players. And what I'm excited about is there's guys on that offensive line that personify that in every way. And I saw that, as we started playing some of our younger players in the Charlotte game, towards the end of the game, there was a different way of coming off the football that you saw from guys like Jordan Meredith and Seth Jost and Tyler Witt. Even Parker Howell had a great spring. And then Cole Spencer, the red shirt was lifted off of him. So this really becomes an offensive line that's going to be led by new leadership, and that's in the vision of what we're looking for in our offensive line. Tough-minded, unselfish players that are fully committed to finishing games. And I think that this whole offensive line is going to be a lot of new faces. But at the end of the day, Cole Spencer was a completely different player this spring as a result of being able to start 4 or 5 games last year. Tyler Witt, completely different player this spring as a result of being able to start 5-6 games last year. Parker Howell, having been thrust into a situation where he's competing for the left tackle job a year ago, mid-season, he is now really kind of taken the reins and really run with that opportunity, and you see a different decisiveness in the way that he plays the game. Miles Pate, he's an incredibly talented offensive lineman. And then you got a chance to see Jordan Meredith, who I love the way he comes off the football. I love the way he strikes people. I love the way he's got just a demeanor of of physical punishment when he plays the game. And then you got Preston Mixon, Gunnar Britton, Mason Brooks coming in. So there's some really good bodies. I think it's a little different. I don't know that we have the no-doubter starters going into the year that you've had in years past. One thing I will say is that I like that the quality of the 15 young men we have is at a very improved level from recruiting that position. We're building it the right way, not looking for quick fixes, but looking for long-term players that are going to be here, and you're going to end up having a very veteran line here in a year, 2 years, 3 years from now because of kind of how things have played out.
Mike, the timing with Dennis, does it, I don't want to say, we use the word help, but, knowing on May 2nd compared to, say, even June 1st, is the timing of this, do you appreciate knowing the sooner the better?
I do. The biggest thing that I do like is that it does, for the summer program, it completely clears up just our need to get a lot of snaps with Seth Jost, with Tyler Witt, with Caleb Etheridge, with Colin Reynolds. Those are guys that are going to be true candidates at the center position. And then just the magnitude of the snapping part of it itself is now heightened because of a departure of a starting incumbent center. And so I think that the timing's good. Certainly, you do wish that you could have gone through spring ball with that information, and that's kind of why I alluded to the fact that you do hope that everything was done the right way in this process, but you do want to see you want to see the guys up front respond to it, and so far in seeing the offensive line and the way they've responded to it has been nothing but positive. There's a hunger and a chip on the shoulder, and you get a look in their eyes that they're ready to attack this June.
Mike, I wanted to ask something. You talked about Iggy, and I normally don't like to reference social media in regards to a question here, but there was something on social media about Iggy yesterday or Monday that I just loved. And so people took some pictures, some students, of Iggy going to class Monday morning. So here's a guy, gets drafted, and yet Monday morning he's going to class. Does that just speak to the character you talked about?
It does. Consummate professional. Joel is that. He's a professional in every sense of the word. You watch him get up on this podium and speak to the media, professional. You watch him on the field and the way he communicates, professional. You look at a guy that has desires to be a doctor and is going to attack med school when this football career comes to an end, which I think is going to be 8-10 years from now, 12, who knows. But professional in that area too. So, I can't say enough about him. Certainly, when we got the news of him being an early draft entry, that's a tough pill to swallow. But on the flip side of that, he made the right decision based off of his reasoning, his logic was solely based off number one, his readiness to be drafted, which proved out, and number two, the fact that if football did not come to fruition at the professional level, that it would essentially allow him to get going in medical school as soon as possible. And I think that's great logic. It's hard to argue with that. It's professional logic. It's smart logic. It's who Joel is. And so very proud of him. And I think that picture of him on campus basically the Monday right after the weekend of the draft, that speaks volumes to his character and his steadfastness in everything he does.
Like with this program continuing to produce multiple draft picks year in and year out, how much does that help you on the recruiting trip?
It helps a lot. Just for us to be able to show that we're at or near the top of Conference USA, in draft picks, it says a lot. Just what's happened since 2016. From a draft standpoint, it puts us at the top of the Group of 5 level. And in all honesty, that points to the recruiting that was done, right? 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it like I've said many times. It came as no surprise. The way that we recruited in 2009, 2010, 2011, when Coach Taggart was here, going forward, that's all I knew was how things were being done then. And there's a reason that Willie Taggart's the head football coach at Florida State right now. You talk about the ability to acquire talent. That the last few drafts have spoken to that. What I'm excited about is taking a lot of those lessons that I've learned as a recruiting coordinator, having worked for Willie, having worked for Jim Harbaugh, having worked for David Shaw and some of the classes and draft picks that we put together. Is I love what we're doing in recruiting right now, and our goal when we go out and recruit players is to find the next Forrest Lamp, the next Joel Iyiegbuniwe, the next Mike White, and I think that we have some exciting young players that are going to continue that legacy, without any question in my mind.
Who are some guys in the current roster that you think if they do the things you're saying, act professional, improve their game this season, could have a chance to hear their name called next season?
I think it's a little too early to deem that, just in terms of who the guys are per se, and we want them to be about the work. We're gonna speak softly and carry a big stick hopefully this fall, and I want every player on our team to be on edge with how they prepare this offseason, with how they go into it. There are some guys that have some incredible physical gifts that I'm excited about, but I'm going to let their play speak for where they're headed. I don't want to quote unquote ordain anybody, but I do believe that there are at least two players that not many people are talking about at this particular time that very easily could have their names called, similar to how Deion's situation played out, even though he didn't get fully drafted, but was a high priority free agent.
Mike, and I'm going to ask Kyle for this. I was going to ask about Deion. There's two parts to this. The free agent situation that you mentioned, that he's a premier free agent, but one, the track record in recent years of tight ends here is incredible. And the second part is, tell me if I'm wrong, the Saints might be one of the top NFL teams as far as skill position, giving free agents the opportunity. And I'm thinking of Lance Moore. It seems like they've had a couple of tight ends in the past, free agents.
Right.
And that basically,
yeah, I think
seems like a good fit for
it's a great fit, and that was going to be important for Deion, because I think the NFL teams that I spoke to, which I spoke to quite a few about him, they all wanted to make sure, because of his value, that they had a great situation for him to come in and compete. And I think he found the ideal situation at New Orleans. Fleener, Watson, both good players, established players, veteran players, but Deion's got to go in there. And I told him, to make it in the National Football League, period, whether you're a draft pick in the second round or you're an undrafted free agent, your mentality's got to be that you go in and you take another man's job from him. And that's a tough, cutthroat way to say it, but that's exactly what he's got to do. He's got to be better as a rookie in certain phases than his competition for roster spots. He's got to be willing to be a fully invested special teams player, which he did prior to this season. That was really what made his name. And I think that's important for him to go in there with that mindset of do whatever the team asks you to do, but at the end of the day, you got to go out and find somebody else's job and take it. And that's what I think the Deion's mentality is going to be going into this deal.
Were you surprised that he went undrafted? Because you spoke very, very highly of him, throughout the process.
I was and I wasn't. The thing that's interesting about the draft, if you're a high priority undrafted free agent, at times, not always, but at times, your ability to become a full roster player might be higher than that of a seventh round draft pick. And some of that has to do with the slotting of the contracts and the salary cap implications. So what I told Deion, what I told Mike, what I told Iggy, particularly Deion, is it's really not about when, it's really more about the opportunity. And you want to make sure that you have a true opportunity. And I think his agent did a great job in shopping the perfect opportunity for him.
Is there any kind of game suspension for Steve after his arrest?
Yes, update on that. Steve will be suspended for the opening game against Wisconsin. With that being said, going into the summer conditioning and going into fall camp, that would put Drew as going into the fall camp as the guy who will be taking the #1 reps. We will keep everything competitive as we always do, but it will allow Drew Eccles to get the reps with the one offensive line and create some continuity at the position going into the Wisconsin game.
I know that's an off-field mistake. Does that affect his standing on the field when it comes to quarterback race too? Decision making.
Yeah, first off, we take the matter very seriously. We were disappointed, in Steven's decision. But Steven's a great young man. Steven's very committed to this football team. And I think, clearly he had a goal in mind of winning the starting job going into the Wisconsin game. We have to make plans for our football team, and opening the game at Wisconsin, it changes some things from that dynamic. But by no means does it banish Steven from our view of him as a quarterback. But I did make it very clear that this type of off the field incident is going to carry a heavy suspension, which is the opening game, a game that many on our team want to have a chance to be a part of, we've proved to be consistent with that, and I see a lot of growth in a lot of areas.
Kind of natural decision, I guess, kind of Kenny Martin, a full-time assistant, when that opened up.
Yeah. Just a quick update on Coach Dart. Coach Dart, made a family decision in the best interest of his family, his health, to get closer to home, get closer to where a majority of his treatment was, which was up in Cleveland, and to be able to work really in a kind of a volunteer capacity until he dominates this treatment all the way through at Mount Union. So. It was love Jeff, love his family, and it did create a very natural transition to be able to elevate Kenny Martin to full-time defensive tackles coach. And early returns that I've seen have been just a relentless coach, relentless recruiter. Get a lot of updates about what he's doing down in Orlando and South Florida in recruiting, and that's his hometown. Lived in both those areas as a young man, so that's a very important area for us. In recruiting is Orlando and the Miami area, and Kenny's doing a great job already.
Anything else?
Mike, can I ask one more thing about Mike White? And you touched on it with Kellen Moore, but even taking a step above, the chance for him to compete in the job, the fact that his head coach there obviously is very familiar with the quarterback position. Is that another reason why you think it's a good fit for him?
I do. I think you just look at the development of Dak Prescott, just to see where he came from as a, not a heralded draft pick at the time. Obviously, a dominant college football player, but some that many kind of pigeonholed as a spread quarterback, not a true NFL quarterback. And then seeing what he did under the tutelage of Jason Garrett, really under the tutelage of Kellen Moore, even though Kellen was actually a player, but was in a coaching capacity, if you will. I think it's a perfect situation for Mike to continue his development, continue his development as a, just overall as his pocket mechanics, his footwork, his base, the consistency of things that I saw growth in. But that's the thing that's beautiful about Mike. I don't think Mike's a finished product. He has moved around so much. He has been coached by so many different people. I think continuity for Mike will be really important at Dallas, and Kellen Moore's there, for the long haul, and he's going to be there to coach him up and to work with him, and I think that's going to be a great fit for Mike. And I think Dak Prescott's going to find a guy that's going to be a great guy to have in the quarterback room, just a supportive teammate, a guy that's unselfish, that will make Dak better because he's so dadgum accurate, and even just seeing the balls that he throws, that's going to be something that's going to be great for Dak, and that it'll be a really good relationship between those two guys. I really believe that.